So before we jump in, let me welcome you to the Deep Penetration Podcast. My name is Danny, and I am a self-esteem and love coach that works with gay and bisexual men. So please make sure that you are subscribing to the channel, depending on where you are tuning in from, right? So Spotify, YouTube, whatever the case may be, please make sure that you are subscribing, and also make sure that you subscribe to all the other platforms as well if you want to listen to more content like this one. I will also provide all the information for you in the description of this video, including a link to a free gift that you are not going to want to miss out on. So without further ado, let's get right into it, right? And as you can tell by the title of the episode, we are talking about daddies. Dating a daddy, right? Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it hot? Is it creepy? Like, what's the situation with that? And to be honest, I often work with guys who find themselves in relationships with younger men and vice versa. It's not an uncommon thing in the LGBTQ plus community, especially amongst gay and bisexual men. The question that I get asked the most is it weird, right? Is it weird that I'm dating somebody who is like 10 years my senior, or, 10 years younger than me, or 15 years younger than me? And the answer, in my opinion, is no. Right? It's only strange if you make it strange. And here's the thing, people are always going to have an opinion. They're always going to question your choices. And at the end of the day, it's your choice to allow it to have power over you, right? And I understand that a lot of the times that's easier said than done, but it's the truth, And while age can definitely play a role in the longevity of a relationship, in my experience, it's based far more on levels of maturity, right? That's the first thing. And the desire to be together. I have worked with men that are in their 30s and have the most toxic relationships. And I have worked with men who have a significant age gap who are happy and thriving in that relationship. So let's take it back to the question, right? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And here's the truth. There's an argument for both. So I want to provide you with both in this episode, and then I will give you my opinion at the end of the episode. So if you want to hear what I have to really think about it, I would definitely stick around until the end. So let's start with the good, because I feel like all the time people start with the bad, and I want to start with the good. So here's the thing. I'm gonna break this down into kind of like little mini bullet points, right? So for the first one that I want to talk about is when there is an age gap, then what we are dealing with are different perspectives. And that's not to say that people don't have different perspectives if they're the same age range or whatever the case may be. But I think that an individual who is the more mature one within that relationship in respects to age has some wisdom to offer, right? So I think perspective allows for growth, and being in an age gap relationship can be beneficial to both partners, right? There is this common misconception, or the common misconception is that the younger partner is the only one that is benefiting in that situation, and that's simply not true, right? While the older partner can offer stability or, wisdom, experience, and many other things, specifically around creating a level of stability, the younger partner can offer energy, right? A new perspective, a sense of adventure. And oftentimes when I've worked with clients who are in age gap relationships, I hear this all the time from the older partner in the relationship, which is like, I essentially had forgotten how to live until I was in a relationship with my partner, and they really kind of pulled me out of this slump that I was in. The second thing here is that learning has no age limit. So for me, I truly believe that we continue to learn until the day that we die. And therefore, this relationship structure can offer learning for both partners, not just one. I know that it's not necessarily the case for everyone, but I have worked with many older clients that are stuck in their ways, and dating a younger man has allowed them to view and approach things differently, has allowed them to kind of open their mind and their perspective to certain things as well. But on the flip side of that, I have worked with many younger clients in this dynamic that have matured and have learned certain life skills and have become better lovers, better partners, better individuals in general, right? It goes both ways. The other thing to keep in mind here, right, which is the third thing, is that balance is key. Um, and usually, I don't want to say all the time, but usually in age gap relationships, that is going to be crucial. From the outside, it might appear that the younger partner, like I said before, is benefiting, right? And most times, the thought process here when you see a younger individual with an older individual is that there is some kind of financial agreement between the two. And here's the reality: there might be, but there also may not be as well. Because at the end of the day, let's say, for example, it's a 60-year-old man who's dating a 30-year-old man. That doesn't mean that the person who's 30 years old doesn't have their life together, doesn't have a career, doesn't have their own dreams and aspirations and financial stability in any of these things, right? Sometimes it really has to do with just the general connection that they share. And like I said before as well, the older partner can benefit from this situation as well. It's not just about like the finances here. While it is common that the older partner usually provides more of the financial stability in those types of situations, depending on the age range and how old the younger partner is. Again, the younger partner can also bring some swassiness, right? Some excitement. And I think it's important to not allow ourselves to kind of pigeonhole our mindset, our thoughts, our perspectives around age gap relationships into thinking that it is a one street relationship or a one-way relationship, because it's really not. There are also different variations of age gap relationships, right? So there are age gaps that are maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the case may be. That will also contribute to the likelihood of success in that relationships. I have worked with clients that have 5-year gaps all the way up to 15 to 40-year gaps, right? But regardless of the gap, what makes the relationship work, like I said, is a desire for those two people to be together, right? The maturity level that's involved there, and all the other relationship fundamentals that have to be there in order for a relationship to work regardless of age. So trust, communication, empathy, all of those things. Now, talking about age gaps and ranges, there are certain age gap relationships that have a higher chance of not succeeding. And usually those relationships are the ones where the younger partner is in their early 20s and the older partner is in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And a lot of people will usually ask the question, well, why? Why is that the case? Like, I thought we were talking about the maturity levels and the desire to be together and all of those things. And while those things are true, there's still the factor of just understanding how to navigate life, a certain wisdom that comes with experience. And let's be real, when you're in your early 20s, and again, this isn't the case for everybody, for most people, when you're in your early 20s, you're just kind of like trying to figure shit out. You're trying to figure life out. Like, what do you want to do? What direction do you want to go in? Do you want to pay your bill or buy that Starbucks? Like, those are like the decisions that you're making in your 20s. And it's not to invalidate people who are making much larger decisions in their 20s, because I will say this, I feel like generationally speaking, the younger generation are killing it. When it comes to creating online businesses and all of this stuff that I would not have been able to figure out in my 20s. So kudos to the younger generations. But what I'm saying here is that life experiences are going to be very different. And sometimes when you combine those two individuals together, there can be a disconnect there. So that segues me into the bad, right? So the first thing when it comes to the bad part of a age gap relationship is the social stigma that's tied to it, right? You will always have people who feel the need to express their dislike or their disapproval for your relationship, regardless of what that relationship looks like. And often the most difficult person or persons to tell, if you are the younger partner in that situation, and sometimes the older partner, is your parents, right? Having a partner that is closer in age to your parents may come as a shock to them. and can often lead to some difficult conversations between the two of you guys or the three of you guys, right? And the reason for why this can be so difficult is due to our experience with rejection as gay or bisexual men, right? Particularly from our parents. This is not the case for everyone, but many of us fear what our parents will say or think when we finally do come out to them. So if we are already, or if we already had a negative experience with them during that process, having a conversation with them about an age gap relationship in which your partner is far older than you are can also be a very awkward and uncomfortable experience. The second thing here that I see quite often is the father-son dynamic, right? So I have worked with many, many clients that have fallen into this dynamic, and it is very hard to get out of. Think about it. The term daddy, it didn't just like come out of thin air, right? And in the field of psychology, not that I'm a psychologist, I just want to be very clear about that, right? Let me clarify that for people, because I also get a lot of people in the comments who are like, what are your qualifications? What are your certifications and all that stuff? I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed therapist. I am a coach. And if you want to learn more about coaching and how to become a certified coach and all that stuff, you can ask me the questions in the comments, but I just wanted to clarify that. But the reason why I bring up from a psychological perspective is because I do a lot of research. I love reading a lot of things about psychology, just human interaction in general. And there are many different theories surrounding age gap relationships, right? Some of these theories are like the Oedipal complex, right? So if you're not sure what that is, I would suggest going and checking that out and looking into it. There's a social exchange theory, there's the psychological development theory, and the list goes on, right? And honestly, let me know in the comments if you'd like to hear more about these specific theories. I'd be happy to do a video on them, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just giving you examples of different theories that are out there in the world of psychology when it comes to age gap relationships. And from my experience, working with gay and bisexual men over the years, I have found that many of these relationships are driven by a need, right? And while attraction is definitely a factor for some people, for others, it's about a need. For the younger partner, it may be more so financial stability, a mentor, or a masculine figure in their life to compensate for a broken relationship with their own father, for example. Not specifically the case for every single person, but just an example. For the older partner, it may serve a need for adventure or feeling alive again, right? A lot of older gay men that I speak to will talk about their absolute avoidance to accepting their age. And for many of them, they didn't come out until they were older, right? So there's this kind of feeling of missing out on a part of their youth that they want to relive through dating younger men, right? The third thing here is generational differences. And depending on the age gap, there are definite generational differences that can cause issues within that relationship. And some of the most common ones usually come up in either politics or social issues, right? I'm not going to get super into that one right now because that is a completely different episode, because we can talk for hours about social and political stuff. And I try to avoid those kinds of things, not necessarily because I don't enjoy talking about them, but I just feel like it's a rabbit hole and it can just kind of go on forever. The fourth thing here is financial issues. So for many people in these dynamics, finances are a big point of contention, right? The older partner can feel sometimes used by the younger partner. And the younger partner can feel controlled or restricted by the older partner, right? Unless it has been discussed and both individuals are in agreement, falling into like a sugar daddy situation is a surefire way for that relationship to completely blow up. But again, if it's an agreement between two individuals, then it works for you, it works for them, so be it. So what is my opinion on age gaps? Now that I've kind of provided you the structure, the information, some of the facts based on my personal experiences with working with clients who are in age gap relationships, my opinion is I don't think there's anything wrong with them. In fact, I've had my own experiences with a zaddy or two in my day, right, when I was single. Ray, don't be shocked. One of the guys that I hooked up with or was intimate with was in his 60s, right? Granted, he was the global head trainer for Equinox gyms, so his body was sweet, but still, he was in his 60s. He was actually in better shape than I was, which is, whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to do what makes you happy, right? Regardless of what other people might think. My mom has been in a relationship with her boyfriend for over 10 years and they have a 20-year age gap. He's actually closer in age to me than he is to her. And initially, I definitely had some issues with it because I was like, what is going on here? This is like a little bit weird. But I was much younger then, right? So I had my kind of like, ooh, Mom, are you sure this is what like what you want to do? But at the end of the day, he made her happy. And he's proven to be a super kind and considerate and respectful and responsible guy. They've been together for 10 plus years. So in no way did I think that, there was any kind of using here going on or whatever the case may be, because he's proven himself to genuinely care for my mom. So if you are in a relationship with a younger guy or an older guy, that's great, right? That doesn't matter. You do you live your life, you enjoy that relationship regardless of what anybody has to say to you. My Cuban just came out right now when I just threw that out you. If you are familiar with Cubans, or honestly, just kind of like any Latin American culture in general, we use our hands a lot and we'll throw our words at you. So I'm just throwing my words at you. Anyways, so if you are going to be in a age gap relationship and you want to be in a healthy one, let me give you some tips, right? So the first one's going to be open and honest communication. Mutual respect and understanding is going to be really, really important. Having a healthy power balance, shared interests, and activities, that's going to be really important. Having a solid support system as an individual, right? So having your own group of friends and people that you can hang out with outside of your relationship, because you do not want that relationship to become your entire world, universe, whatever you want to call it. You want to make sure that you are addressing these social stigmas as a team, right? You want to do it together. Because if you're able to tackle that together, then you are fortifying the foundation of your relationship. You want to make sure that you have a financial and a legal plan moving forward, depending on the circumstance of your relationship, and always make sure that you are prioritizing intimacy and connection. And when I say intimacy, I'm not necessarily referring to sex. I'm referring to just the deeper emotional connection that you share with somebody, the quality time that you share with somebody, the memories that you build with somebody. And then obviously the physical aspect of it is also important. But that is dependent on the structure and the dynamic of your relationship, because at the end of the day, every relationship is subjective. So you do what makes you happy, and I will clap for you from the crowds, from the audience, from the stands, whatever it is. You do you, right? If you have any questions, please make sure you reach out to me directly. Happy to answer them. Leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are about open age or open gap relationships. If you've been in one, if you've considered one and you're just not sure how to navigate it, or if you are completely opposed to it, right? Everybody has a right to share their opinion as long as it's done in a respectful way. Hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next episode.